Holy One, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be good in your name. Amen. 2016, a year that is engraved in my memories, a year I will be impacted by forever. It was a year of heartbreak and joy, all jumbled up into a big, chaotic mess. My family and I were going through multiple layers of heartbreak. Cancer, disease, death all made it hard for us to be patient in our suffering. We just seemed to continue to get hit with bad news. The first hit came with my aunt, who is diagnosed with multiple systems atrophy. This ultimately affected her motor control, breathing, blood pressure, and other parts of her body. My aunt lived with my father's siblings and her daughter in Victoria, BC. Knowing that she did not have much time left, we planned a trip to go see her. With just weeks left before we had planned to leave, my aunt lost her fight to this disease. We were heartbroken. We were left with so many questions. Why her? Why so young? Why couldn't we have gotten to say goodbye? Despite everything, we decided to go out west anyway. As we continued to prepare for our trip, one night my mother noticed a deer in our yard. Now, in all of the years living in that house, the closest a deer that has ever been was within the fields behind our yard. But this deer was just meters from our back door. We all slowly went to the nearest window that we could find to see this beautiful creature. It looked up, aware of our presence, but did not startle. My aunt used to love deer. And coincidence or not, the timing and beauty within this moment expelled calmness and awe over me. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. We all suffer in our lives. It is bound to happen. It is a part of this beautiful journey. We see this balance of good and bad in our lives within this text. We see in this text an encouragement to just go with the flow. This is often hard to do when we feel like the devil is on our back. Paul is writing the letter to the Romans knowing that people are going through hardship and they want revenge. They want someone to pay for what they are feeling. They are like the little toddler stomping their feet and saying, "That's not fair." Paul verifies their feelings. Paul encourages the Romans to feel these deep feelings of pain, but he also encourages them to be patient with this pain. Do not get revenge. Do not lash out, but instead sit in it. We don't like doing that. We don't like to feel angry or sad or bad. We want to move past these feelings. But Paul encourages all to be patient with these emotions. He encourages us to cry when it is needed, feel, do not push it to the side, and pray. Trust in the Lord, for there will be good again. We are not to be the judge of good and bad. We can have our feelings, but we do not get to use these feelings to get back at people. What Paul is asking for is not something that is an easily achieved thing. We see people respond to hurt with love in our world. We have seen it on the streets just outside this building. Since March, we have all experienced so much change. We feel burdened by this change. At times, it has come with isolation, job loss, change of plans, and so much more. We've also seen change in the fight for equality amongst all of God's children. Paul writes in his letter that we should not fight violence with violence. And I've been so moved by the amazing nonviolent messages and movements that have been happening amongst the Black Lives Matter campaign. People are still marching for the justice of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Elijah McClain, Jacob Blake, and if there's any other names, please write them in the chat. Say their names out loud. Do not let them be forgotten. They are marching. They are praying, lifting their voices in unison up to anyone who will listen. God, are you listening? Are you listening to the thousands of voices in the streets asking for change? Are you marching with them? Paul writes, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. March, say their names, do not give up, and trust that the Lord our God is marching with us, weeping with us, and helping us grow in community with one another. This is not an easy task that is being asked of us in this passage. Patience in suffering, no revenge. What do we do with all these emotions? It can be hard to deal with these emotions, to understand these issues. I will never fully understand what it is to be a person of color, but I can support their businesses. I can sign petitions. I can listen to their stories. I can do whatever I can to help. But sometimes we must sit in the pain with people. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in suffering. Persevere in prayer. We trust in the Lord and hope and pray. We know that God never leaves our side. We are God's people. Due to COVID-19, I have been connecting with the families of Windermere United Church through virtual means, as I have been residing in Brighton since March. Since being home, I've been watching my two young cousins for a few times a week, the oldest one being 4 and the younger one being 3. You can learn a lot about patience through these two. There are times that they can really test it. The other one likes to see how far she can push the boundaries, just to see if she can get away with something. She tests you. You can see the gears in her little brain just spinning, trying to figure out a way around the rule that you just made. One day, she snapped at her sister and her emotions got the best of her, and she lightly hit her sister because she thought it was her turn to play with the toy. Now, normally I'm very lenient with these two, but that was an automatic timeout. So I picked her up, I set her in her room, closed the door, and waited a few minutes. When I went back in, I asked, do you know why I put you on a timeout? Yes, she said, because I hit my sister. And then she turned to me with her big brown doughy eyes and said, I'm sorry, Kate. I told her she needs to apologize to her sister and use her words next time. I got a big hug and we continued with our day. And Charlotte received the apology and that was it. They played and that was the rest of the day. It was important for me to understand both girls' feelings during this time and many other situations. When they were upset, they need a hug, a time to cry, and then they can move on. So I sit with them when they fall down, take a moment to feel the pain, take deep breaths, and we don't punch the ground back. It is important that we listen to people's pains. They are real, even if we can't feel them to the same extent. We must be patient with our siblings, listening, validating, and accepting their truth of the situation that is occurring. There is good news. We are never alone. God is always with us. God is with us marching in the streets for change. God weeps with us in our time of lows. God hears our prayers and loves us. God rejoices when we help our neighbors. God is always with us. Paul writes this letter to remind us of the power that comes from doing good in the world. When we spread love, when we march, when we fight in solidarity, when we are pilgrims on this journey of life, we are not letting evil overcome. We are taking a bad situation and we are spreading love, care, and awareness in our community and communities around the world. This is not an easy task, my friends, but we have God on our side. God answers our prayers, and sometimes the change doesn't seem fast enough. Sometimes we feel like the fight is hopeless. God sees your perseverance, you're patient, and hears your needs. The last line of this passage stuck with me as I prepared for this service. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Good will win in the end. I am a big believer in this. Fighting for change, for justice, for equality and equity is not an easy fight, but it is an important one. There are people still marching in New York fighting for justice. Paul wrote this letter to the Romans, knowing that a world where people fight bad with good is a world that produces change. It is a world that provides hope. And it is also a world where people have a chance to learn from their mistakes. As part of my requirements for school, I completed a course called Suffering and Hope. In this course, we talked a lot about the positive impacts that come from having hope during times of deep suffering. You may have experienced this in your own life, the amazing impact that hope can have on people. In fact, one of the many series that I grew up with has a line within it that is delivered by the antagonist that says, "Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. A spark is just fine as long as it is contained." This is from the series The Hunger Games. Hope is an amazing power in our lives and our world. Have it. Hold it. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in suffering. Persevere in prayer. In my class, we look at a lot of case studies that can be found on the Forgiveness Project. The goal of this organization is to connect people with those that have caused them pain and suffering. The hope of this connection is to grow from it, to understand each other, and to build. Not so those that have done wrong can grow, but so that people can be healed from the pain that has been in their lives. The stories, well, they give me hope. They give me hope for redemption for individuals in this world. They give me hope that we can live in harmony. It also gives me hope that we can be forgiven. We can grow from our past and heal from our pain. Follow the guidance from this passage today. God is always with us, loving us. During my time here at Windermere, we did a Sunday service with the kids, and it was Star Wars themed. It was so wonderful to see them all dressed up in their costumes as stormtroopers and Jedis. They participated in the service, and I won't speak for them, but I had a lot of fun planning and participating in that worship. During that service, we pulled from the Star Wars movie A New Hope, and we used that during the Good News time as a connection to the hope that is in our world, living and breathing. There is hope. There is good news. God is alive and well despite it all. Rejoice in this. We are surrounded by love during even the worst times in our life. Paul encourages us to be open to these little joys while we patiently or impatiently go through times of suffering. Even when you, as a community, were marching because of pain, there was joy in the number of people that came to march. We can see what too much hope can do. It can change the world. So have too much hope in yourself, in the people around you, in the world. Know that when you have that, anything is possible. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus, crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. It is okay to be lost sometimes. It is okay to not know where to turn, to fall to your knees and give it all up to God. And if we are patient enough, we may just receive the hope we need, even if it is as simple as a little deer grazing from the grass of your lawn. Amen.